That subtle voice that creeps in slowly and, instead of asking whether the relationship works, begins to say, "I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe I'm the problem." It's a voice that doesn't shout, but whispers, making it all the more insidious because it sounds so reasonable, so concerned with being fair. If you recognize yourself in this, let's stop here for a moment. Because this feeling doesn't arise by chance. And above all, it doesn't arise because you love poorly or because there's something fundamentally wrong with the way you connect with others. Many people with deep emotional sensitivity don't experience love as a space where they can relax. They experience it as a continuous test, an ongoing evaluation of their worthiness, a silent exam that never seems to end. Every unanswered message becomes a signal. Every silence gets interpreted. Every variation in tone gets analyzed for hidden meanings. And so, almost without noticing, you stop asking yourself if you're doing well in that relationship. Instead, you start asking yourself if you're doing enough, if you're saying the right thing, if you're asking for too much. When love becomes a constant verification, the conclusion is almost always the same. If something's wrong, it must be your fault. Yet no one is born with the idea of being wrong. No one is born feeling too much. This belief builds over time, often in contexts where love wasn't stable or predictable. Maybe there was affection, but alternating with distance. Maybe there was presence, but only under certain conditions. When you were quiet, when you were easy, when you didn't ask for too much. Maybe to be seen you had to adapt, calm down, understand others first, and only afterward yourself. The message your emotional system learned was simple, but profound. If I am as I am, I risk losing the bond. And so you learn to observe yourself, to control yourself, to correct yourself. Not to manipulate, not out of calculation, but to protect yourself from the unbearable pain of abandonment. When you enter a relationship today, your body doesn't just seek love. It seeks safety, predictability, a sense that you won't suddenly find yourself alone. If the relationship is consistent, predictable, stable, the body relaxes. But if the other person is emotionally inconsistent, ambiguous, elusive, the nervous system goes on alert. And when the body is on alert, the mind does something specific. It looks for an explanation, a cause, a reason. And very often, that reason becomes you. If I feel this way, I must have done something wrong. If the other person pulls away, maybe I said too much. If they don't respond, maybe I asked for more than was fair. This mechanism isn't weakness. It's an attempt at control. Because if the problem is you, then you can correct yourself. If instead the problem is the relationship, you lose the sense of control. And this is where many people remain trapped for years. There's something important to say, even if it's not reassuring. The anxiety you feel is not a measure of love. You don't love more because you suffer more. You're not more involved because you're more agitated. What you feel is your emotional system seeking stability in a context that doesn't offer it. And when this happens, something very subtle occurs. You begin to normalize the discomfort. You get used to the tension. You get used to the doubt. You get used to being in a state of constant alert. Over time, this tension becomes identity. I'm just made this way. I'm too sensitive. I love too much. But this narrative has an enormous cost because it always puts you in the wrong. In many dysfunctional relationships, the other person doesn't need to openly tell you that you're wrong. It's enough for them to be inconsistent. Present one day, distant the next. Sweet at times, cold at others. Available when you start to pull away, absent when you get closer. This alternation slowly shifts the center of the relationship. You're no longer evaluating whether you're doing well. The relationship seems to be evaluating you. And so you begin to minimize yourself, to explain yourself constantly, to hold yourself back. Every need, even before being expressed, gets filtered through a silent question. Do I have the right to ask for this? Or am I asking for too much? This is not mature love. It's emotional adaptation, survival mode masquerading as a relationship. And here comes a phrase worth listening to carefully. You are not too much. You are not too intense. You are not too needy. You are not too sensitive. You are a person who learned that love can disappear. And when something can disappear, the body tries to hold on to it with everything it has. The problem is not your intensity. The problem is the lack of stable reciprocity. In a secure relationship, needs are not a problem. They are information, valuable data about what each person requires to feel safe and connected. In an unstable relationship, needs become guilt, something to apologize for rather than express openly. And this difference changes everything. Healing doesn't begin when you stop loving. It begins when you stop accusing yourself for what you feel. When, instead of constantly asking yourself what's wrong with you, you start asking yourself if that relationship is truly capable of welcoming you. It's a subtle shift, but extremely powerful, because it moves the gaze from self-criticism to reality, to an honest assessment of what's actually happening. This doesn't mean demonizing the other person. It means returning to yourself, recognizing that what you feel makes sense, even if it hurts. If today you feel wrong when you love, don't immediately try to change. Don't try to become colder. Don't try to control yourself more. Stop for a moment. Breathe. And try to tell yourself, even just mentally, what I feel has a reason. My emotions make sense. You don't have to solve everything today. You don't have to make definitive decisions. You just have to stop waging war on yourself. Because the problem is not that you love too much. It's that you learn to love in contexts where you had to protect yourself. And this doesn't make you wrong. It makes you human, someone who adapted intelligently to difficult circumstances. If this video has given a name to something you felt for a long time, take it as a sign. Not that you need to do more, but that perhaps you can start treating yourself with more respect, more compassion, more understanding. On this channel, we'll talk about exactly this. Understanding where these patterns come from, calming the nervous system that's been on high alert, rebuilding a sense of self that isn't based on being less or smaller. One step at a time, without rushing, without judgment for where you are right now. If you feel these contents help you gain some clarity, you can subscribe to the channel. And if you want, in the comments, you can simply write, "I relate to this." Sometimes, knowing you're not alone is already the beginning of peace.